All right, we are live. That was that was exciting. They dumped it from 74 to 68. Wow. That's insane. That is insane. I almost missed the open. That's crazy. All right, let's get live on here real quick. Let's get live on them. Let's watch this history. GDex trading. Let's go. Let's watch this chart. That's insane. That wick is insane. Let's see. Let's see this shit. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Oh, let's see this 1 minute dance on GDex.pro. You can get the take the power back trigger cap link in the comments. 1 minute chart. Let's go. All right, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna have a live stream. Market pre-book live. There we go. Let's bring it back up. Let's bring it back up. Let's bring it back up. You want to trade? Let's trade on GDex.pro. Two minutes. 2 minutes to lift off. 2 minutes to lift off. Y'all are trash. Benzinga, of course, trash. Let's go. Oh, this is live at Starbase. This is insane. 172. 172. Let's go. From 172 in comments quickly. From 166. Let's go. 172, 172, 172, 171. Let's go. This is crazy. Let's go. Run it. Run it. All right. Look, Elon, 7228. Run on 1 second. 170. I said pure price was 170. I said pure price was 170. Actually, we can just look. Substack. 171. Oh, that thing went down. It's affordable. It's affordable. All right, 170. Now 170 spiking. Newt. Oh God, XPL's getting spanked. Come on. All right, agent. Agent, fuck that one. Fuck that trade up. Jesus Christ. back up to 170. My print price. So the print price, I'll put that in the description. All right, they're gobbling up at 170. They gobbling up at 170. All right, let's eat it up, eat it up, eat it up, eat it up. Give me, eat it up, eat it up, eat it up. All right, eat it up, eat it up, eat it up. Back at 170. All right, 170 is looking juicy. 170 is looking good. Absolutely. One seventy, 180, huh? Where we at? 170, 180, huh? Bitcoin's shit, of course. Shocker. All right, 170. That's what I said. I said 170 once again. Hmm. I was at 170. $1 off.
Currently, that first indication coming in at $174 a share. That would imply about a 29% jump from the IPO price of $135 per share. So we'll continue to keep an eye out. This is just the first indication. It's a very long process. We have several hours likely to go before this stock officially opens. But at least in terms of early indications of the supply and demand dynamic that we were describing earlier, 174 is the first indication.
You can do a 5X on SpaceX on GDex.pro. Links in the comments.
That's going to be tight. You want that.
Okay, so it is not trading yet, folks. It is not trading yet. As she said, it will take several hours. So if you go to your brokerage, unfortunately, it is not live yet. I know that's what everyone's excited for, but
173.99.
I wish they could have made it live early in the morning. That would have been really fun, but that's usually just not what happens on an IPO. But that's your quote, 171. I mean, we'll see at 10 a.m. if it actually gets the trade. But if what she's saying is correct and it's going to take many hours, then we're not going to have it for a while. Rocket Lab getting dumped. Palantir getting dumped. ASTS getting dumped. SPY getting dumped. Only thing pumping.
Of course, everybody's taking out.
Oil? Where's oil?
SpaceX. SpaceX. This is about to go crazy.
Oil's up a little bit, 87. It's not at the
Everybody's
very
selling
lows.
off for SpaceX. That's
Oil up, high beta down. Nebius and CoreWeave losing a lot of their pump from the highs, but they are still green on the day. Are you shorting it a bit? No. Who's shorting the space? Like, today is not the day to short the SpaceX idea. I mean, maybe it is. Maybe at 171 it's unsustainable and it's going to come back down to like 140. I wouldn't want to be on the other side of that thing if it just rips your face off. So, yeah, I don't know if. Also, I don't even know if shares will be available to borrow to short today. I mean, they might be, but I think this is one of those days you let it ride out. Now, granted, you might have some people that call BS on it and short it immediately and try to see if it goes down. But if you have overwhelming amounts of demand, maybe that breaks through. Adobe 199. Is the meta dilution still a rumor? It is still a rumor. It is not confirmed. but it's the street's acting like it is confirmed. Mercado Libre, that's down 2.4. Yeah, guys, pretty much everything going red. SanDisk is the only thing
Everybody's
in the
selling
semis, along
off.
with AMD,
Let's go.
really holding on right
Getting
here.
that SpaceX and sit there.
Heels up 6.5.
Get there and
Adobe's
sit
down
there.
8.
Get there and sit there,
TSM's
homie.
down.
Get there and sit there, homie.
If SpaceX is going to open at 170, that's 30% above the IPO price.
At 174.88 on
That'll be about
hyperliquid right now.
2.5 or 2.3 trillion. And I guess that will be the story compared to all the other stocks. Yeah, ARM as well. ARM doing okay. Cerebras, where's that one? Cerebras, wow. Cerebras was 240 this week, 230 to 211 this morning. So that one's down. ARM is holding on. ARM is down, though, from the 400s, right? So a lot of these names still down a lot from their lows or from their highs. Intel 120. Intel was at 130 at the high. Nokia's up a little bit. MP, you had a lot of insider buying on that. A little bit.
$176. Let's go. All right, I might be off.
Pull this up right here, see if we have anything.
This is public.
This is going to become the largest company on the planet.
I think it would be pretty cool if you could, vacation on the moon.
I wish them the best. I mean, they're inventing stuff that can, change humanity for the better.
Is SpaceX today worth 1 trillion? I don't know, maybe. Is it worth 3? Yeah, maybe.
The company over the next 10 or 15 years is going to be worth 10 trillion, 20 trillion, 30 trillion, and I could be very low.
I call Mars the fixer-upper of the
I agree with
planet, but it's got a lot of potential.
I'm not a fan. What you're talking about is an unbelievably capital-intensive business.
You're going to be keeping an eye at all on that other IPO that may be happening tomorrow?
Well, I'll be watching along with the rest of you.
Bezos.
I very optimistic for the future. I root for every entrepreneur. I'm rooting for Elon.
Good Friday morning. Welcome to a special edition of Squawk on the Street. I'm Carl Quintanilla with Sarah Eisen, David Faber here at Post 9 of the New York Stock Exchange. Today, it is all systems go as we await the public debut of SpaceX from here on the street to the NASDAQ in Times Square, where the company is listing. And that is where we find our Seema Modi and Morgan Brennan. Morgan.
All right, so we don't have to quote yet. We do have some macro data. Michigan 5 to 10-year inflation expectations have fallen from 3.8 to 3.4.
178. 26% up. Patreon. If you're in the Patreon, I'm sending messages to the Patreon group on my Patreon group post. $179. Go SpaceX. SpaceX. We have lift on. We have lift on SpaceX. You just give me a little. You just give me a little appetizer, SpaceX. You give me a little appetizer, Elon. Elon, give me an appetizer. Elon's give me an appetizer. All right, check this entry out. This entry is epic. Let's zoom out. Check this entry. Entry is 168, ladies and gentlemen. It's like serious God commitment. Get some of this Saunders Farms fine tobacco. Hyperliquid. Let's go. Now you're learning, sir. You're teaching them. We're teaching.
So the Nasdaq IPO price is supposed to be
He discovered
71, so it's already up
Welcome.
from there, as you can see.
Welcome. You can try GDex.pro too.
Again, these are perpetual futures. This is not actually shares of the stock, but this has become a very liquid market for various liquid assets.
Put GDex.pro.
A lot of people use leverage in this stuff. So 360 million of volume, 300 million of open interest.
Watch this. Hey, check his chat.
But obviously the stock right there down a bit from where it was a couple weeks ago at 200, but you know, once 135 was set, the fact that it's at 177, that is why you're seeing a pretty big pop right there. Mr. Derek Wall, thank you for the 20 gifted. Derek, a good friend of the channel. Derek has been a longtime investor in SpaceX. I actually called him the other day and he just got his allocation of shares. He actually invested in what was it, XAI, had like an $18 billion valuation, which then ended up buying X, which then ended up getting acquired by SpaceX. He's just got a bunch more SpaceX stock because of that. But he's been in it for like the past decade. So put in the chat if you've had private exposure to SpaceX. I know Sachin,
SpaceX
the channel, has been part of an SPV on SpaceX for like, I don't know, almost 7-8 years. But our friend, Mr. Derek Wall, has had that exposure. Again, SpaceX has been one of the more liquid secondary shares to have for a long time.
I'm spamming.
It's just, you know, it never had that crazy of a valuation like it is when it's going public. But part of the reason it's getting that valuation is because it's been tossed around so much in the private markets that now this is the public debut. And obviously there is lots of demand for that public debut. ARM right there is up 8. Nebius goes green. Micron above 1,000. S&P almost 740. 740. Just owning Google count. You own Google early before they bought SpaceX. Technically, yeah. Technically, it does.
All right, I go again.
Again, Rock Lab for a lot of people has been the exposure in some respects as well. Rock Lab 107, as that is also green on the day. Meta's Messenger has widespread outage after the last 30 minutes. Interesting. Right. You know, I don't use Messenger anymore. I don't remember the last time I've used Messenger. I know a billion people use it every day. I used it a lot when I was in high school. S&P 740. But if that goes down 30 minutes, that's obviously, you know, not the best. For Meta right here, 564. Because that goes red. It's affecting Instagram. Instagram's down as well.
These people don't.
Dude, that's the last thing Meta needs.
5X.
Their stock being as it is. You don't need.
You're right.
Instagram's not working.
I tried to tell them they can trade right now.
They don't need that.
I tried to tell them that I got in at 155.
They don't need that. SPY 740. Let's see if we can take out 741, and then maybe we end up flipping green for the day and hold that green. So we stopped at 735, then we flipped. Again, IPO price for SpaceX 135, expected to open at 175, but it's likely to take about an hour until it goes public.
Doing it more profitably. Also looking at some of these new numbers from the S1, but let's get to Leslie Picker for the latest on indications for where this thing could open, Leslie.
Hey, Sarah, that first indication, 174, that's now broadened to a range. We are hearing 170 to 175 is the first indicative range that we've gotten. Now what happens is essentially Morgan Stanley, the stabilization agent, will assess through the buy orders, the sell orders, figure out based on that volume what makes sense in terms of the ultimate opening price for this stock. But you can see indicative range now 170 to 175, which implies at least about a 25% jump at those levels, guys.
Leslie, I've been talking about this green shoe, which obviously would increase the number of shares issued to I think 638.8 million.
175
When do we know whether that has actually taken place?
on live stream.
Usually that won't take place until the shares have officially started
12.
trading to know if they are going up or down, because the green shoe is used in different ways based on how the stock trades. So it's technically a stabilization and support mechanism. If the stock does drop, you can use that 15% over allotment to stabilize the stock and help bring it higher for its first day of trading. If the stock goes up, the company is then able to issue more shares to sell. It's able to raise 15% more proceeds for the company. So if it does open at 170, 175, the indicative range, still a few.
NASDAQ anticipates SpaceX IPO to open for trading shortly.
It's crazy.
I don't know if that means they're open for bids to come in and then the market makers have to go through all of them to price it, or that legit means they're going to open to start trading shortly. Because we keep hearing that it's going to take until 1 p.m. So, I mean, we'll find out probably in the next 30 minutes, but I just end up taking a little more.
Hours to go before we really know where this opened and how it trades today. And if the bankers feel confident, if the stabilization agent feels confident to exercise the green shoe, that's when we will get a sense. And they don't have to exercise the whole thing all at once as well. If they just want to do part of it and then save the rest for next week, if they just want to do it while the shares are higher, they can choose to do that as well.
Leslie, thanks. We'll talk in a little bit. Leslie Picker at Morgan Stanley. Of course, a big part of the SpaceX story is the larger than usual allocation of shares to retail. And some people were already able to get exposure through products like Fundrise's Innovation Fund, which made its debut earlier this year and counts SpaceX as one of its top holdings. Joining us this morning is Fundrise CEO Ben Miller. Talk about all the things that are important and historic about today, Ben. The innovation, what it means for the future of space. There's the workout that capital markets are getting and the prospect for the migration of private to public. What do you think is most important today?
Interview I did about the space economy.
Well, I think what's most important is that we are kicking off a new era. For the last maybe 10 years, most of what Wall Street was focused on was share buybacks. We were focused on dividends. Let's say this ran the street. And now SpaceX, I mean, the big question for me is not so much the trading price, but $75, $100 billion IPO, a $2 trillion company. What are they going to build? On efficiency last decade with like gig economy and better use of cars, Airbnb, more efficient delivery of advertising, to now an abundance era where we're building AI, we're building spaceships, we're building, $5 trillion.
Again, a lot of that is true. The question is, will the capital markets support the valuation that they put on all of that? Because the problem with the story version of trying to justify SpaceX is that the story version of all these other companies doesn't match up, right? Like NVIDIA's story is incredible, growth is incredible, doesn't hold on. And SpaceX is going to be half of NVIDIA's market cap. So, if we make the argument that, NVIDIA's too big to move, it's like, well, SpaceX is not like it's a $200 billion company, right? So it's like the stories always sound good before the reality of like, are people going to buy and sell this? And I think that's why today's so historic, is like, it's not just today, but over the coming weeks, will people have a liquid market to buy and sell at the valuation that it's trading at if they're not willing to buy so many of these other companies at incredibly discounted valuations? But granted, those companies just don't have an exciting story. And NVIDIA's story is exciting, but NVIDIA's story is also like old, like everyone knows about the story.
All right,
SpaceX's story
where we at
is
with SpaceX?
One of the more fun stories that is.
telling y'all where y'all can trade it. Right there. GDex.pro. I'm telling y'all where I can trade it. Y'all sitting there just passing for no reason. This is crazy. This is insane. Let me cite this. Let me cite this, man. This is crazy. Up 26% on the trade on the Challenger account, 25% on the Challenger. So you can copy trade me. You're welcome. You're welcome. These people aren't listening, so maybe somebody watch this listen. And I'm already in. And y'all sitting here just talking about it. Y'all just talking about it. I'm already in it. You know what? Let me see this. Let me show y'all this nonsense. Let me show y'all this.
And of course, it provides the infrastructure to open the stock and also facilitate the buy and sell orders. The goal, guys, today is to ensure fair and orderly trading, and that really works closely in the NASDAQ with underwriters and the stabilization agent who determines when the stock is ready to trade. Just by far, the number one question, of course, is given the sheer size of this IPO and sell orders, when could we actually see the first trade for SpaceX? Now, for reference, Cerebras, which was the biggest IPO to date, it raised about $5 billion. It opened at around 1 p.m. Eastern. Snowflake was at a similar time, while Lyft was a bit earlier at around 11:45 a.m. Eastern. So that's just some perspective there. And given the expected market cap of around $1.7 trillion, it will be joining the biggest companies in technology that are housed here at the NASDAQ, like Apple, Google, NVIDIA. And guys, here's a snapshot of how these large companies traded on their first day of trade. NVIDIA gaining about 64%, Apple 18%, and then there's Tesla, Elon Musk's other company. It saw shares gain about 40% on its first trading day. Guys, there's a lot of betting happening. Prediction markets are already anticipating how SpaceX could open on its first day of trade. Fully Market is betting on a 70% chance of the IPO opening between $150 to $200. Of course, the latest indication we have at the NASDAQ is $175, but we'll be staying close and getting you more details as they come.
Okay, thank you, Seema Modi, with the update from the NASDAQ. We do have breaking news on Iran. Eamon Jabbers has details from Washington.
All right, so it looks like 1 p.m.-ish, folks. 1 p.m.-ish is what we're going to see for when that price officially goes live.
And Eamon.
Sarah, we're now getting from a U.S. official on what is in this proposed Iran deal. Remember, we began the week with these back and forth military strikes between the United States and Iran. Now we're seeing back and forth leaking of the terms of this deal, which does appear to be firming up behind closed doors. But what we don't know is actually what's in it. We saw earlier this morning an Iranian media outlet releasing terms that they said in the deal, including that the Strait of Hormuz would be reopened under what they called Iranian arrangements. Not clear exactly what that means. And very little detail in the Iranian leak earlier this morning about what would happen with the Iranian nuclear program. Of course, that was the reason the United States went to war in Iran in the first place. We saw the president come out on Truth Social denouncing the leaks from the Iranian side and saying that's not at all what he agreed to or what is shaping up behind closed doors. He said the terms that Iran leaked out to the fake news have nothing to do with the terms that were agreed to in writing. What they said, including their weak and pathetic statement on having a deal, bears no relation to the truth. Very dishonorable people to deal with, the president says. Says with them, there is no such thing as dealing in good faith. Amazing. Also, their totally rebuffed drone attack last night against Indian ships leaving the Hormuz Strait is totally unacceptable. They better get their act together and fast. So the president frustrated with those leaks, and now we see from a senior administration official confirming to CNBC some terms that they say are in the Iran deal. They say the nuclear material will be destroyed and removed, the nuclear program will be dismantled, and none of their money will be released until they perform. This is what they have agreed to. A White House official says this is a performance-based deal. Guys, back over to you.
Okay, let's see if it materializes. Thank you, Eamon. Right. Eamon Jabbers in Washington. We are still awaiting SpaceX's first trade, currently indicated to open in a range of $170 to $175 per share. Our next guest calls the record IPO, quote, too richly priced. Says he's not buying it. Joining us now is NYU Stern School Professor of Finance, Dean of Valuation, Aswath Damodaran. It's great.
Okay, we'll listen to Aswath in a second, but in terms of that Iranian deal, markets not loving those updates. We just lost 741.50 all the way down to 739. So of Iran basically pseudo confirming but not confirming, took Micron down from 1,000. These markets are choppy, man. They are very choppy. Every time you think you're getting a little bit of a trend, which was basically April and May, the trend was your friend. And now it's like the trend is absolutely not your friend. And or you at least can't trust the trend. Tesla goes red again, SoFi goes red again, SMCI goes red. So some of these names getting a little bit of a pump on that Michigan consumer data. SpaceX again still expected to be 175, but the Iran update's not really helping. S&P 739. 739.45. All right, Aswath, let's get his take on the SpaceX IPO.
Great to have you, Professor. So you don't like the valuation here? How are you thinking about it?
You know, this is like watching a kabuki dance. You could have called almost everything that's happened so far 3 months ago. The pricing, the 20% jump. I mean, I think that, let's get this straight. SpaceX is an amazing company. It's an engineering model. And it's also the reality that they have only 20 billion revenues, lots of potential. And even if you build in the biggest possible stories, getting to 1.8 trillion takes a lot of work. So let me be very specific. Valuation is
Let's
go! You make your best judgments on the company, you decide what it's worth, and you decide whether to buy. For me, the company just looks richly priced, even with really big stories about their three businesses.
I was going to say, you're not buying into the business now, obviously, right? You're buying into the future of the Starlink business and what that could mean for telecom, the future of the launch business, what it means for space exploration, and then, of course, AI.
If you stop with just Starlink and connectivity, you're not going to get even close to $1 trillion or even half a trillion.
I don't know who this is.
It's AI that's carrying this, right? And that's the reality. This is the first step in OpenAI, Anthropic, this whole bunch of AI companies. This is either the culmination of the AI buzz coming to market or the start of a cleaning up phase where things are going to have to iron out as to how profitable this business is going to be.
Yeah, I mean, I was making the point earlier in terms of in the S1, the addressable market, Aswath, being seen as 28.5 trillion, but the vast majority of that, 22.7 trillion, is enterprise applications, not really what we're talking about today.
No. When I read that, I thought Grok had written the prospectus because we know AI is subject to hallucinations. This is a hallucination. I mean, I don't know if it's a banker who wrote it, I would be embarrassed to even put that number out. I mean, it's a big market. Why do you need to make up a number? A number so large that it destroys your credibility. It's a big market. It could be 4 trillion, 5 trillion, and that by itself would make it one of the biggest total addressable markets out there. The 26 trillion collectively for AI is fiction.
I don't want to get too far away from SpaceX, but since we're talking about commoditization on language models, I mean, also we're talking about prices beginning to come down vis-a-vis competition, and enterprises also trimming their use cases because they realize they don't need models that understand quantum gravity, as the journal said today.
Right.
Those two things together in a capital-intensive business, how dangerous is that?
You know, the next couple of years, you're going to see this business start to clean itself
Let's
up.
go!
You're already
Let's
starting to
go!
see the seeds of it. The OpenAI cutting prices and people complaining about how much Claude is costing them when they use it in their
Oh
day-to-day
God!
business.
Oh, it's on a live stream.
The AI business, at least the structure for the LLMs right now, is two prongs. One is that the cost of delivering AI products and services is not zero. It's not like the old software companies. Adding a subscriber costs you nothing. This is a costly business to deliver products and services. And the second is the competition is going to be intense. I mean, you've got 4 big players, all with deep pockets, all using shareholders' money to fight it out. So it is going to be a big business. I'm not sure how great the profitability of the business is, to be quite honest. And what we're pricing in is the expected profitability, not how big.
So there's 2 QR codes.
Yeah, I mean, the bulls would say, though, how fast they were able to stand this up.
Okay.
Get the supply chain, get it working, and then how profitable some of the deals are with Anthropic and Google is what's impressive and might leapfrog XAI versus the competitors.
You know, the 1.3 trillion in assigning in value takes the bull's case and carries it to its limits, right? I mean, that's partly why I'm attaching a $1.3 trillion value to a company with 20 billion in revenues, which is losing money. This is not a small story. It's one of the biggest stories I've ever told. I just don't know how much give there is in the story to get past 1.3 trillion.
And they're going to keep talking.
Asfa, thanks for joining us. Appreciate your perspective on this momentous day. Asfa from NYU.
Watch this.
After the SpaceX president and COO.
It's right there.
What do people think?
Your goal is right there.
What do people think?
You get 30%, and they just going to keep
Do we agree?
There it goes.
Do you think he has some valid points?
Money gone.
SpaceX still not live yet. Rest of the market, S&P really fighting for that 740 right there to try to break through.
That's crazy.
I don't know. Look, his valuation framework says
Look,
it
I'm
should
gonna
be
try
worth,
again. I'll do it again. I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna do it again.
What is it? 1.3 trillion,
again.
which is still a pretty hefty valuation. I think his argument is fair that it's hard to see getting above that in the short term, but the future growth prospects
Whenever you post
depending on, which is why you give the
ain't
premium.
nobody gonna see it. That's social media.
You know, does that premium get justified today? And
watch how quick it goes away.
none of us
3
fully
1,000, 4 1,000, 5 1,000.
Again, 174. IPO price is 135.
Now 1,000.
That is what the market is expecting right here.
Class this minute.
Trying to see how aggressive this ultimately. I'm still getting hit. Robinhood, again, those insider buys getting it to be excited. 92.74. Israeli defense minister says Israel must ensure it can act independently to prevent Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons. Okay. They've been saying that for a while. Nothing too crazy there. Dell at 400. Meta's down. SPY trying to get the pump. I feel like if we could break 741, it's off to the races for SPY. But we have to break 741. 741.50 would be the best. Israeli defense minister says he and Netanyahu instructed Israeli military to prepare accordingly to prevent Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons. See, that's the other thing about this deal. It's like, okay, is Israel working with the United States on this memorandum of understanding? Are they not? Is it Trump's EU? Then Trump tweeted this morning that he's mad that the Iranians are leaking news, which means obviously the news is not agreed to if they're leaking certain details of it. And so, you know, what does that mean? Okay, S&P's pushing. She's pushing right here. Let's see 741. Can you give it to us? Can you give us 741? Develop a trend for the day. 743 was that pre-market high. So realistically, 743 could be out there. Oh, MicroStrategy is up 3%. Saylor was at a conference yesterday. And, well, he was asked some questions about selling his Bitcoin. And he had some interesting responses, which is what we got to see. Let me see if I can pull up the video right here. MicroStrategy up 3.28%. Rocket Lab down 7%. Robinhood at 93. Okay, here's the video. This is what he said when someone asked him why MicroStrategy actually sold some Bitcoin.
and I refused to do it because a troll on Twitter said, hey, you said never sell your Bitcoin. Okay, fine, I'll destroy $100 billion company so that I don't sell my Bitcoin. You know? Well, the point is, I said to you, never sell your Bitcoin. I never said that the company wouldn't sell his Bitcoin.
Oh, now you want
and anybody that's been listening to our earnings calls or reading our disclosures or has half a brain knows for the last 5 years, we've been clear that of course we sell the Bitcoin if we have to.
Okay, so he has two responses. His first response is, I told you never sell your Bitcoin and never said the company would never sell their Bitcoin. So that's one way to think about it. The other way to think about it is basically this argument that is like, I'm not going to bankrupt a $100 billion company based on this idea, this dogmatic ideological view that I would never sell my Bitcoin, which is quite ironic. Because for the past 4 years, he's been promoting this entire thesis of, I mean, literally the guy has been tweeting every time Bitcoin has a red day, sell your kidney, keep the Bitcoin. So when you come out and say, well, I'm not going to bankrupt my company, it's like, well, would you want people to sell their literal kidney? But keep the, it's like, yeah, you do. You've kind of been saying that for a while. So I think that's why people were a bit annoyed by his comments yesterday, because, I mean, you know, it's kind of going the opposite of what he's been saying. Regardless, Bitcoin's obviously been stuck. We'll see. Maybe the SpaceX IPO pulls it up. Maybe there's some more high beta momentum right there. But as of now, you know, that's not exactly happening. Yeah, he wouldn't sell his kidney. Exactly. You know, that's why I think people are annoyed. S&P, red candle right there, 739.40. Again, it would be really nice to see it break into the 740s when SpaceX goes public. You want to have the market participating, and basically to go green for the day, you would need that 740 level. You know, and then eventually, hopefully, SpaceX can match it. Cerebras, that's down 5. Amazon down 2. Microsoft 384. Microsoft at least got a bounce from 382, but you know, nothing super exciting right there on Microsoft. Hyperliquid up. SpaceX going down on Hyperliquid. 172 now. On Hyperliquid. Wow, SpaceX shares now indicated to open at 170. Previously, it was expected to open at 175. Just got a 5 reversal, which is quite interesting. I mean, there is demand. The question is just how aggressive can that demand come into for SpaceX? Here's the COO live right now.
All right, David, thank you. Yes, I'm here at the NASDAQ. I'm Gwen Shotwell. Historic day, historic IPO, and just really incredible to be here with you. Final IPO pricing, $135 per share. The offering size kept the same. Why do that when there's so much demand out there? According to my colleague, Leslie Picker, 5 times, the final book, 5 times oversubscribed.
Well, you know, not everything has to get done on the first day. Right? I think there's opportunity as we proceed down the path.
Okay. So you don't feel like you've left capital on the table when you see indications of $170 to $175 a share?
You know, the book that we set up that we've been working over the last couple of weeks is really a great book. We're really looking for investors that want to stick with us for the long term. And I feel really proud about what we've done.
Yeah. I mean, and as we mentioned, this is a history-making offering and a major milestone. There's been some debate about stock valuation, even as I think most of the first Wall Street initiations have been very bullish. What do you see as the key metrics that investors need to track as you and Elon and the SpaceX team realize this future?
So definitely folks should be watching how we're doing on Starship. They should watch consumer growth and enterprise growth on Starlink and Starlink Mobile. And then, of course, we've got the Grok, we've got AI, we've got coding. There's a lot. There's actually a lot going on.
I know, and you and I have been talking about it before. And so just to keep going with the conversation we had last week, Elon unveiling the AI-1 data satellite this week, also getting some reports that SpaceX could begin testing orbital data compute as soon as next year. Is that true?
I think we'll be launching the full AI-1 satellites late next year, but we will be putting compute on some of the Starlink broadband and the Starlink mobile satellites prior. We want to make sure we understand the operation. We love doing kind of canary sats and canary work before we fly the real thing.
Yeah, I know. We've talked about that as well, and sort of this iterative design process and this idea of flying and testing. Since you and I last spoke as well, you inked another compute deal, Google. That's on top of the one you did with Anthropic too. Should investors see SpaceX as an emerging competitor in this NEO environment, and when it comes to the terrestrial AI data center compute build out that we're seeing from others?
100%. We are builders. We build our own launch vehicles. We build our launch sites, and we're building data centers both on the ground as well as in orbit. So I look at ourselves as an infrastructure company.
You and I have talked about it, capital intensive, and you've done these types of investment cycles before. You're also competing with OpenAI and Anthropic when we talk about something like Grok, the hyperscalers. Are you going to need to spend as much as those peers when you think about this over the longer term?
I think our use of compute is pretty efficient, so I don't think we'll have to spend quite as much CapEx as they are. And we also demand that our coders are quite efficient in their code as well. So let's put it this way, I hope not. I hope we don't have to spend that much money.
Well, and I think maybe perhaps one of the things that gets missed at times in the conversation is that when you're talking about some of these other companies, very software specific engineers and folks at the helm, but you guys also have all the hardware.
For people saying it opened, I don't see it opening anywhere. Some of you guys are saying it open. I don't see it on Webull. I don't see it on Hood. If you do see it open, let me know where exactly
tobacco
you're seeing it, or what brokerage you're seeing it on. But I do not see it open yet. Hyperliquid, it's at 171, so it's falling on Hyperliquid from that 175 price. But I don't think it's officially opened yet.
Expertise and manufacturing expertise too.
I think it's incredible. We've brought some of that hardware focus, those hardware focused folks, and we've brought them over to XAI and thrived there actually. And it's a new thing for them to work on and to learn. Building launch sites, building rockets, building AI compute, building AI models.
Let's also talk a little bit about space. Space is hard. It can be risky. Case in point, unfortunately, what we saw with Blue Origin's New Glenn rocket on the launch pad a couple of weeks ago. What do you see as the biggest risks for the company, both short-term and long-term?
You know, that's a great question. There's not, I don't think there's anything sitting in front of us that I'm super worried about.
Oh my.
I'm not, I don't see any technology or any endeavor that we're looking at doing that I'm
okay, that's not the right way to respond to that question.
No.
That's like if you're in an interview and someone says, "What's your weakness?" and you're like, "Oh, I'm too excited to wake up in the morning and get to work," right? Like you always there's obviously some risks that are out there. Every company has risks. That's not me, right? That's a weird response. Like an old COO would be like, "Well, this could happen, this could happen. We have to keep executing." And she's just like, "Yeah, I think we're gonna be fine." It's kind of weird.
Afraid we can't do. I don't love crew fly days. Like those are nerve-wracking. I worry about those, but it's not about the technology. It's just, you know, you can have a random day and you really don't want them on those days.
Yeah, and I've heard you have a routine for those launch days too.
I do, yes.
What is it going to take to ultimately realize and build out this $28.5 trillion TAM that has been identified in your prospectus?
So I think if you think about just people using AI, it's hard to get to those numbers. But you think about digital humans, you think about humanoid robots, you think about all cars on the planet eventually being full self-drive. They all need AI, compute, and comms, by the way. So all this need for compute on the ground kind of distributed across the globe, they all need to kind of reach back home. So I'm very excited about the combination of that plus the need for them to all kind of phone home because they'll be using Starlink for that.
I want to go back to this idea of risks. Yesterday, Iran state media reporting that Iran is targeting, quote, all interest related to economic holdings managed by Elon Musk in West Asia. Realize, even just in the last few moments, we've got more reporting on this, that we could get a pease deal between the U.S. and Iran as soon as this weekend. But what do threats like this mean for SpaceX?
You know, we've We've had threats, you know, at all levels. And I think when you're doing things that are really different and you're doing things that are trying to change the world, I think some people and some countries get mad, you know, but we always try to do the right thing. And we'll keep forging ahead.
Well, and SpaceX is a big and growing defense contractor as well. You got comments, whether it's launch or whether it's Starshield, which is a national security enabled Star Grok being used on classified networks now. So how do you think about balancing that government business against the commercial ones?
We're always going to support our government. Like we're a company of patriots, and we want to make sure that our government has access to the leading technology and the best stuff. And I think we provide the best stuff.
And finally, well, and I hear about this a lot from military experts in terms of what it's doing in the warfighting domains. But finally, I want to go back to something you and I have talked about before, and that is founder.
It's horrible. All right, GDex.pro price 176. 176.17. We got 176.17 right now as we speak. Watch this. Wait a minute, hold on. I got to update. Sorry. Let me update the screen for everybody. I misspoke. Yep, I missed them. 172.57, 1257. Watch this. Watch this. They don't even see it. They don't even see it.
Outside of the institution,
It's like
33% of the round.
It's pretty incredible. I mean,
watch.
The retail investor playbook and what this milestone means for that as well.
It is not open yet. I've got some news sources saying it could open as soon as 11, which is 15 minutes. But it is not open yet. We'll get back to that in a second. Rest of the market kind of taking a little bit of a dump. S&P, it just cannot hold 740, which is, I don't know if you got the S&P down 2%. Does SpaceX really get a big pop? So it would be nice. There's that ugly red candle right there, 738. It is not open. For those that are saying it's open, it is not open. I think I might just have to stay on until it opens, folks. I think I might just have to. I just texted Steve. I think Steve's going to join us. He'll just stream it to his channel as well, and we'll just be live until this thing opens. Because at this point, I don't know. It might be 1 o'clock. It might be 11 o'clock. Might be 11:30. Might be 12. I don't think we know. Well, we're gonna try to find out. ASTS getting destroyed. That's down 12. Rocket Lab, that's down 9. What's Dad's plan for the stock? I don't think he's gonna sell. I think he'll just keep it. I don't know. If it goes to 200, 210, he might be like, you know what? Screw it. I'm taking my money. So I don't know. It's going to be up to him. I'm not going to tell him what to do. But I think it really depends. If it's at like 150, I don't think he's going to sell. 160, if it's at 180, 190, 200. You kind of would want the rest of the market to be really green, though, to expect that type of open. And you just don't have that. Even the names that are green are barely green. So this is the first interview, though, I've seen of the president of SpaceX. And I don't know, a little bit of a weird vibe in terms of how she's answering questions. And I mean, she's obviously the president for a reason, but some of those answers were a little weird. Regardless, Elon's the one that really matters the most when it comes to this. Elon has 80% of the voting control for the email. So, you know, every decision that matters ultimately happens for Elon. Here is one of the earliest investors from Sequoia, Sean McGuire. Here's his take on what's happening with SpaceX.
A relationship manager for the companies in the so-called Musk orbit. Sean, good to have you. We're hearing the latest indications are 169. That would be above a $2 trillion value for SpaceX. I'd just love to start off by getting your reaction to that valuation for this company.
Thank you so much for having me.
Can you hear me, Sean?
Sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just getting adjusted to the audio.
Okay.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here. Incredibly exciting day. Look, in the background, I think you can see the path, which I think, even before we talk about share price, like this is a company that has the most important mission of any company, I believe, in history. Today is just an early milestone. It's the beginning of the first, it's the end of the first chapter. And, next phase is we get to use Starship to try to build infrastructure all around low Earth orbit, explore the stars. Hopefully, your grandchildren, my grandchildren get to do science field trips on the moon someday. And so in terms of the share price today, look, it's early trading. I don't know where things will end up, but it's really just I view this as a very early intermediate milestone for the company. So I'm more thinking about 10 years from now.
Yeah. All right. Well, on that note, then, I mean, Sequoia is a company, and by the way, you've done what you're supposed to do. You invested wisely a long time ago at a far, far lower valuation. So I do wonder, in terms of your LPs who are like, hey, man, we want some of this to be monetized. How do you approach that, given you seem to be so bullish for the future prospects of the company?
Yeah. So it depends on the fund, depends on the lifetime. We have different obligations. Obviously, always, thinking about our fiduciary duty. For myself, though, I personally think SpaceX right now is more like NVIDIA 3 years ago than Tesla, which I think a lot of investors comp it to. And what I mean by that is I personally have very high confidence in explosive revenue growth, kind of like starting now, in a way that I think a lot of other investors are looking at, Starship, and they're struggling to predict timeline. They're struggling to, predict timeline of orbital data centers, trying to understand the build out with terrestrial compute, Starlink, direct to cell. Like, I look at the company and I think you can basically assess the technical progress of all these different products. And I think what we're going to see over the next 3 years is like dramatic growth. And so the way I approach this is, obviously I've built a financial model. I have what I think the company's revenue is going to be in 2029, 2030. And I have what I think is, a reasonable multiple on that. The answer I get to is a very big number. I'm not going to give investment advice here, but I get to a very big number. And so, we'll make distribution decisions based on, going backwards on IRR numbers from our 2030 model. And so, of course, like, we'll distribute some shares to our investors if we feel like the valuation is way ahead of its skis. I personally don't think we're even close to that right now. And me as an individual, I'm going to hold my shares forever.
Sean, you are in the privileged position that Elon Musk really well. You've worked with him on a number of companies. I think you know him better than most. Yes, he's a young guy, but no, you're talking about the key man risk here around SpaceX. We talked about it with Tesla. It came up again when Musk was working at the White House. But what would you tell investors today that are wondering about that and whether that makes a $2 trillion company riskier?
Look, Elon is the most visionary entrepreneur of all time. I also think he's underappreciated in his operational ability. I think he's the best operator in the world. And this combination of being a visionary, just absolute operational grinder, a technical genius, and an amazing salesman, like that combination has never existed before. So of course there is some key man risk. But on the other hand, I think Starship is already so far in its development pathway that, in my opinion, is guaranteed to work. Starship alone is going to unlock, I believe, trillions of dollars of like serviceable addressable market. And so on this question, like, of course, like, I don't think anything's going to happen, but even if something did happen, I think that there's a decade plus of, revenue growth that's already kind of baked into the company. I think the key man risk is more around,
let's see if I see it.
The far distant future. What is the final state? Does this company take us beyond the solar system? But I don't think it really matters for any of the terrestrial projects. And I'll just say, because I think people are underestimating how far along those projects are right now.
I want to know what your 2030 model looks like then, Sean. What's that revenue number?
It's in the hundreds of billions of dollars. You know, it's in line with what Goldman has said. And I know that sounds pretty crazy, but I believe it. And I've done the work. For what it's worth, I built a pretty crazy model on Starlink back in 2019, 2020, which has tracked pretty accurately. So, you know, got one right.
Yeah. All right. Hundreds of billions, right. From, again, 18.5 billion right now, roughly. So that is a huge multiple.
Hyperliquid shows 169, folks. So they're trying to figure out how to price this thing, which is why it hasn't gone public yet. Morgan Stanley now saying Bloomberg saying 166 instead of 175. Fidelity saying 165. Hyperliquid very close to that price. So we are probably going to find out in a bit what this ends up being.
My stop loss is 157, so we good.
Yeah.
On the 18.5 billion, though, I think it's important. You know, some of the
even if it's 166, I don't care because my stop's at 157, and they're Patreon. I'm just doing this. So even if it's 160, my stop loss was 157, and that's gonna stop out. Liquidation is 149. Liquidation is 149, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the best to ever do it. I'm the best to ever do it. Thanks for joining. That was a good story. Please like, share, and subscribe. You're about to see greatness. I promise you that.
About the fact that we're actually taking this baby public, $2 trillion in the public markets.
It's weird. I got a conspiracy alley in my mind because I got a couple of calls this morning, and I saw what you had posted. I saw what Roy had posted, and I talked to Matt, so I know what you guys got allocated. I will tell you, a couple of my buddies got very sizable allocations, and I'm very sizable. We're not talking a few hundred shares either.
Well, as you say that, S&P is freaking moving right here. Moving. Okay, so you have some buddies that are getting a decent chunk of stock.
I don't want to say how much. I'm going to text you right now how many shares. You confirm if you feel this is sizable based on what you guys got.
Sachin says, big day of my investing career, bought SpaceX at $4 in February 2020. Congrats, Sachin. Absolutely incredible.
Look at your phone.
Yeah, that's a pretty big amount. Those are multiples beyond what retail has been getting.
I mean, that makes me think that this wasn't as oversubscribed as what they said, if they were getting that much. And these are all people that I trust.
Well, 20% of it is still allocated to retail. So maybe because they asked for so many shares, they were seen as customers that have the money to, pay for a lot of shares. So that might be the
And I will say that I believe they got roughly 40%, 30 to 40% of what they put in for.
Yeah, it's a decent amount. Again, Sachin, congratulations, man. For those that got in the early days.
Congrats.
It's pretty incredible. Yeah, there's going to be a big one. I have a couple other friends that got in. I don't know if they got in as early as $4, but
I'm trying to give
this is one of those names that's going to get a lot of people liquid that took a chance on this. When in 2020, it wasn't sure if SpaceX was going to survive and become this massive company. XAI wasn't there, Grok wasn't there, NeoClouds wasn't there. Like this whole AI revolution barely was there. Robinhood trying to push 95 right here. Now it is.
You know, I listened to This Week in Tech with Gerstner and the other guys that are on it. The more that I listen to all these people, the more that I think that the valuation is BS today, but this could become the biggest company in the market potentially. I mean, if everything plays out. If they're
some content,
and I have no reason to think that they're not being truthful about Star.